All right, here's Matt Sundin. Let's get to After Hours with Scott and Mark.
Ron, thanks very much. Yes, we've been trying for years to get Matt Sundin on this program, and for that to happen, he had to sit out for 6 months and then sign with the Western Conference team. So with all that taken care of, we welcome Matt Sundin to After Hours, and we know, Matt, this would be a much more enjoyable thing for you to do it had the Canucks been on the other end of the score tonight, so we appreciate you stopping by. If you'd known you were going to be asked to do this program, would you still have come back?
For sure.
Mark.
Well, Matt, you got a huge ovation. How did that feel, scoring your first goal in the Western Conference?
It's very nice. I don't know if it was, I wonder, what was that all about, It's always nice. I think being out of the game for so long now, you're obviously looking to get back into things, and I know it was going to be a big challenge to come back, to being out for haven't played since competitive games since April. It's a challenge to get into the game where guys are 3-4 months into the season. So, step by step, felt a little better tonight, I thought, than the previous 2 games, and hopefully we'll go from here.
What's been the toughest thing for your adjustment coming back? What's been the thing that you can't simulate off ice or in the practices?
It's the game. Just the intensity of the game, like we talked about before, the battles that someone is holding you, or you're in a corner battling for the puck. But also the intensity of the game, I think, where every shift you're 30, 40 seconds, but it's pretty much a full sprint when you're out there. So all of that, I guess, you need to play games to get back into that.
All right, Matt Sundin, the Canucks' latest, newest, and major acquisition, joining us in After Hours. Lots more to come with Matt Sundin when we continue live on After Hours from GM Place in Vancouver. We continue live now with After Hours from GM Place in Vancouver on the heels of a 4-2 Canuck loss to San Jose, but Matt Sundin did score his first goal as a member of the Canucks. I just was thinking that in your first game in 1990 with Quebec, you scored. In your second game with Toronto, when you were traded there, you scored. And you score in your third game with the Canucks. So that means that with your next team, you're going to score in your fourth game.
I don't know if it's going to be a next team.
Yeah, okay. Let's establish common ground between you and Mark Crawford. You didn't see the pregame show, right?
No, I didn't.
So if you did, you would have got the answer to this. So this is a test for you. June 28th, 94 was the date of the major trade. The Leafs sent Wendell Clark, Sylvain Lefebvre, first-round pick, along with Landon Wilson to the Nordique for you, Garth Butcher, Todd Warner, and a first-round selection. It's a blockbuster deal by any standard, but there was an overlooked clause in that deal that probably made it work. Do you know what it was?
That made it work?
Yeah.
No.
It was that Pierre Lacroix didn't have to give the Leafs any compensation for signing Mark Crawford as coach of the Nordique.
How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
So really what it boils down to 14 years later, Matt, is that for Pierre Lacroix to sign Mark Crawford as coach, he had to trade you to Toronto.
Wow. There you go.
You okay
what have you been doing
I
since
didn't know that.
Here's a question from Gordon in Tawasin, BC. Matt, I was at the game last night and noticed that your hockey pants look pretty baggy. Is that a new style, or did they not have your size in stock?
It's a good question. He's got a point, actually. I'm playing with the covers still because I still don't have the real pants, so I use the covers you use in international games usually to put over my other pants that I have. So I can see what he means. They probably look a little big.
Oh, there you go. I thought Gordon was just being smart, but he was onto something.
Good point.
Listen, we're not going to spend a lot of time going over the 6 months leading up to your signing with the Vancouver Canucks because that's been dissected to death. But from the time that Mike Gillis made you the offer in July, speculation started to run rampant over where you might sign and what the different scenarios were. They were reported on almost a daily basis. All the while you went quietly about your business, hockey seemingly not even on the radar screen for you. At what point, or were you at any point during that 6-7 month period close to retiring?
Well, hockey's my life. It's always going to be in my radar screen, I guess, in any way, whether whenever I retire, hockey's going to be my life. It always will be. My biggest question was, just the way last season ended and missing the playoffs and everything that we went through with the deadline, I just wasn't sure that I was going to be able to come back and compete at the highest level that National Hockey League is. So I think for me, just having that time off and really, once the season started this year, getting to watch the games and realizing, that if I wasn't playing this season, my career was probably going to be over. It's going to be tough to get back at my age and compete against the best. It boiled down to I love the game. I wanted to have another chance to play against the best players, and and Vancouver and Mr. Gillis made and had kind of had room for me since July 1st, and showed that they thought I could help this organization. I've been very, very flattered about that, and finally get me a chance to get back playing.
Mark.
Now that you've had 3 games here in the Western Conference, what do you think the difference is in the style of play with Vancouver compared to Toronto, who you've played with? I know you've played in a couple of different systems in Toronto, but what's some of the differences you see in Western Conference and maybe the style of the Canucks play?
I mean, I like to, and a lot of people talk about the difference in the conferences. I haven't seen that much of a difference yet. I think there's good teams in the East, there's good teams in the West, there's great players on each team, seems like. And to me, if anything, that I noticed the last few years is that the league is so competitive now. There's no bad teams, kind of. If you don't have your good night or a good game, there's a good chance you're going to lose the hockey game. So I haven't noticed a big difference between the different conferences, to be honest with you.
Mats, let's go back to the historic draft day in 1989. It was historic because you were the first European ever to be drafted first overall, and on that day you conducted an interview with Paul Romanuk, and let's have a look back at that.
I had a lot of hair there.
Oh, here it is.
Wow.
When do you expect to play in the NHL? I know you still have commitments in Sweden.
I hope to play in about 2 years. Yeah.
Got to make you feel pretty good to be placed on a level with great Swedish hockey players like Inga Hammerström, like Börje Salming. Did you ever dream this would happen?
Yeah, I have a dream, but I never thought it's going true.
Is this going to be a huge deal back in Sweden?
I don't know. Maybe.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Man, that interview was 27 seconds long, and it included 4 questions from our colleague Paul Romanuk. What do you think when you look back on that now?
I missed that hair. That's the biggest thing I see. It's a long time. It looks like a different person, to be honest with you.
It looked like you were in the flock of seagulls.
I know. Jesus. But I remember me and my dad going to the draft, and even just months before that, and in Sweden, we didn't really know what it was, to be honest with you. It was very eye-opening kind of experience, the whole thing about the draft and the teams are selecting and selecting different players. I know for myself, and I know we had to be kind of told the process of how it worked. So it's a very new experience for, I know for myself, my family and people, hockey people, not hockey people, but people in Sweden in general, I think.
Yeah, I know you said to Paul that you thought you'd take 2 years to get to the NHL, but you actually took only 1, came in 1990.
Yeah, I did, and because there was some discussions about my contract with my former team in Sweden. That was the reason. It probably, if everything would have worked out the way we want, I probably would have stayed another year, maybe, and played another year.
Okay, we get all manner of questions on this program. We've got a caller on the line now with a question. Is he there, Tim? Okay, go ahead, caller.
Hello, Matt. This is Glenn from Toronto. I just have one question, and then I'm going to hang up because I'm just desperate for your answer, because I can hardly wait to hear what you actually have for an answer for this one. But anyways, this is beyond the times when Scotland used to roll over to Sweden and take over the country, or when Scotland owned Sweden with regards to soccer championships. However, this one is more about the fact that you are cheaper than the Scottish people that are in Scotland, which is kind of where my family's from. But anyways, I'll get to the question right away, because Tydone's right beside me, and he wants to know the answer as well. You lived in squalor in Toronto. I'm not going to name the street, but it was for pittance per month, and it took you a decade to move out of that place. And I just want to know, number one, are you the cheapest man of all of Toronto? And number two, why did it take you so long to move out? And number three, why did it take you so long to sign? I'm going to stand back and listen for your answer.
Okay, that's Glenn Healy, your former teammate. He was a very good friend of yours. There's about 25 questions in there. You pick the one you want to answer.
Yeah, I don't know. He mentioned my apartment in Toronto. I don't know what was wrong with that. It was a great place. And
well, he was quoted previously. He said to me that it looked more like a prison cell than a condo.
Yeah, I don't know what, but I was focusing on hockey for sure. There was no doubt about that. Actually, Glenn Healy, we had discussions, and I gave Glenn Healy a history lesson about. We were always arguing about Scotland and Sweden in the past, and I told him that the truth is, for the Scottish people, when the reason why they wear kilts, I asked him, and if he knew that, and it was the Vikings going down to Scotland back in the days, and they made all the men wear skirts.
Okay.
And that's why the Scottish people wear kilts. And he didn't believe me, and I said, go to the history book and check it out. We'll see. He hasn't got back to me yet.
People everywhere right now are Googling that fact to see if it's true.
That's a little fact for all the Scottish people.
Just before we go to break, Matt, you're going to spend a fair amount of time on the ice with the Sundins for what's left of this season. So have a look at this picture and tell us, is it Daniel or Henrik? Who is that?
That's Henrik, I think.
No, it's Daniel. All right, we've got another
50-50 chance.
Yeah, you're right. Have a look at this one and tell us if it's Daniel or Henrik.
That's Daniel.
Same picture, that is correct. You got it right. Do we have another one, Tim? Okay, and here's another one now. Who is this, Daniel or Henrik?
Well, that's Henrik. Yeah. I got it now. See, that's going to help me.
That's what you're up against the rest of the season, but Mark Crawford can tell you how difficult it is.
We had one night where I think it was Henrik missed a face-off assignment, went to the net, and in between periods I just lowered the boom on him and really tore him a new one in the dressing room. And we were walking out to the rink for the third period, and Daniel comes to me and he says, "That was me." So they're not only hard to distinguish, they're great guys. They really are. Yeah. They good senses of humor as well.
Yeah. All right, Matt Sundin's our guest on After Hours, and we'll continue live from GM Place in Vancouver in a moment. Welcome back to GM Place as we continue with After Hours and our guest Matt Sundin, signed by the Canucks in December. Tonight he played his third game in a Vancouver uniform and scored his first goal. If we wanted to find out what you were doing for the first 2 months of the season, all we had to do was check out those Poker Star ads on television. Is it true you developed...
No kidding.
Is it true you developed your fondness for the game of poker by taking Ty Domi's money on the charters for the Leafs?
I wish I could say that, actually, but he would be a better poker player than me. There's no doubt about that.
All right, Mats, we're going to test your poker knowledge, and we know you're not as voracious a player as, say, Roberto Luongo, but
it's an endorsement deal, okay? I have nothing. I don't play a lot. I'm a very amateur, but go ahead.
All right, one of the best-known poker players in the world is Canadian Daniel Negreanu, and he's in the Bahamas tonight, but he's on the phone. Are you there, Daniel?
I am here.
Say hello to Mats.
Hey, Mats, how you doing?
Daniel, how you doing?
Okay, Mats is a beginner, as he says, Daniel, so give him a very easy scenario.
Okay, I'm going to give him an easy question, all right? Mats, if you have 4 to a flush, if you have 2 spades in your hand and 2 spades come on the flop, right? That makes 4. You need 1 more spade to make a flush. How many spades are left in the deck?
4?
What's
Well,
that?
there's 13 to a suit, so...
Let's say it's 13, 5 left. I didn't hear the first. I had 2 in my hand. There's 4 more on the table, 2 more on the table.
You got 2 on the table, 2 in your hand, right?
Okay, let me count. Yeah, there's 9.
Very good.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. All right.
Took me 3
I almost had to take my shoes off.
I never would have got it. Hey, should he go all in on that, Daniel?
That's a good enough hand for him to go all in. Yeah, very aggressive. I like that style.
All right. Daniel, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Daniel.
Care.
Good luck.
You pointed out before you dressed for the Canucks that the uniform of Vancouver has 2 of the same colors of the Toronto Maple Leafs, which leads us to Saturday, February 21st. Vancouver at Toronto. What kind of reception do you expect?
Oh, that's a good question. Obviously, Toronto's been my home for 13 years, and the Toronto Maple Leafs always going to place in my heart the rest of my life. So hopefully it's going to be good. It's going to be very emotional. I think I have a lot of friends in Toronto, and I've been through a lot of battles there, and we had some good runs in the playoffs. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be an emotional night no matter what happens, and we'll see what happens.
I don't have anything. I'm anxious for that night as well. I really am.
I think
I know it's a game on CBC.
Kind of
Everybody's looking forward to it. Matt's had such a good career in Toronto. It really will be interesting to see not only how the great fans of Toronto react, but also just to see how that team reacts. And I'm sure both teams will want to play a great game.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 06, Mats, when you captained Sweden to the Olympic gold in Turin. What does Olympic gold, or where does it rate for you on your list of hockey accomplishments?
Well, I mean, obviously for us as in Sweden as a hockey country, I think we realized the generation of the Lidströms, Forsbergs, and the older guys here. We for me, it was my third tournament, and we had 2 failures in Salt Lake City and in Nagano where we didn't achieve what we thought we had potential to do. And I thought this time around it was a different feeling in the room. Henrik Lundqvist came in and he's really a top goaltender in the world. So a lot of things fell in place. So I mean, internationally, it was probably the biggest victory for Swedish hockey, I think, to beat the best nations when all the best players in a tournament. That hasn't been done for Swedish hockey before that. So it was a great thing just to be part of that.
Well, your contract here could have run through next year if you'd wanted it to, but you've kept it only to this year. So does that tell us that playing for your country in the Olympics here 2010 is not on your to-do list?
Not right now, anyway. To be honest with you, I think it's pretty fair again for the Canucks and for myself the way it is right now, and I think both sides can evaluate at the end of the season how the performance and everything has been. So I mean, for me, I think it's going to be interesting to see how I react to my body and physically and mentally. Keep competing against the best players in the world, and we'll evaluate at the end of the season again to see where we'll go from there.
Now, Mats, when do you think you're going to be at not mid-season form, but at really good form? How long do you think it's going to take?
Close to peak form.
That's a good question. I hope it's not going to be that long, actually. I think physically I've worked out for over 2 months before going on the ice and skating with the team here. So I think, I mean, I would say starting the skating here with the Canucks, that was where I am when starting training camp physically. So I don't think hopefully that's not going to be an issue. And it feels on the ice, actually physically feels good. For me, it's the hands, the like we talked about before, the intensity of the game and all that. And I thought it was a little bit better today. Hopefully we'll keep moving in that direction. So I hope as soon as possible, obviously.
All right, Mats, we're going to jam this in because we're racing to get off air here, but rare footage of you as a kid in Sweden. We're just going to get it ready now, and tell us what you recall of these pictures.
You were
fast.
15 years old. We won there's a tournament in Sweden when the first time they're televised, actually, when you're 15, and it's still huge tradition where I represented Stockholm, so all the different townships of Sweden has a team, and you play in a big tournament, and the semifinals and the finals is on TV, and it's a really nice thing. And I remember those games when you realize that you're actually televised during the game, it's a nervous thing, but it was a great time.
You didn't look much different in that picture than you did in the one the way you were drafted.
I had a lot more hair, though, that's for sure, again.
All right, Mats, thanks for being with us. We appreciate that one of your first stops in your return to the NHL was this program, and we expect you've done wonders for the ratings because God knows Crawford and I could use the help.
Oh, God, do we ever need it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks.
After Hour Snapshot, your first, Mark. Go ahead.
The first one, this is a photo of Don Mitchell on the right and Daryl Carr of Caribou Old Cats up in 100 Mile House, BC. The Old Cats have a fundraiser every December in Clinton, BC for the Peter Wickenizer tournament to raise money for local families going through cancer. Peter was a member of the Old Cats. This past December, they raised over $2,250.
All right, and this next photo is Brett, the son of Brad and Aletha Henderson with Sidney Crosby at the Pittsburgh practice yesterday in Denver, Colorado. That's a picture that Brett's going to keep forever. Shouldn't overlook how important pictures like that mean to young fans. Next Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada begins. Scotiabank Hockey tonight, as always, 6:30 ET, 3:30 Pacific, followed by Montreal at Ottawa early, Phoenix at Calgary late. Replay. Tonight's games, condensed to an hour, follows us momentarily, except here in BC, where you'll get news with Rosa Marcatelli. Thanks for watching After Hours tonight from all of us at GM Place in Vancouver. Good night.